So Ben Cooper is the program manager at Stop Waste, where he leads and manages administration of the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancement, BAMBE, program. Ben also manages the Multifamily EV Charger Pilot with the Air District, as well as the reuse and repair of the solar panel, reuse and recycling, and Reusables grant program, and the agency's 1,600-acre property located at Altamont Pass. Ben, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Right on, Sean. So good to be here. Really easy act to follow. Sean, if you could do me a favor, and when I have 10 minutes left in my time slot, just give me a heads up. I'd appreciate that.
I will do that. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, Ben Cooper, program manager at Stop Waste based in downtown Oakland. I just want to mention that I am extremely honored to be here presenting at this event. And I'm humbled to be standing shoulder to virtual shoulder with you all in this fight to zero out carbon. And I also just want to mention that, you know, this is special for me presenting right after Representative Porter. My mom passed back in December, and she was and is a huge supporter of Katie Porter and is here with us right now. So let me share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yep, you bet.
Good to go. I hope you like my best attempt at a catchy title, but what I'm going to be talking about today is the multifamily rebate program that I manage and what we've done in the past year to redesign the incentives to be more equitable. Okay, so quickly, what is Stop Waste? Founded in 1976 as the Alameda County Waste Management Authority. Our Energy Council was approved as a joint powers authority back in 2013. We help businesses, residents, and schools throughout Alameda County use resources more efficiently and throw less stuff away. We administer the Bay Red Multifamily Program. The Association for Energy Affordability implements it through 8 of the 9 Bay Area counties. In the city of San Francisco, the Department of the Environment there implements it in the city and county of San Francisco. It's worth noting that, you know, we are a small and nimble public agency. We serve all of Alameda County, but we just have 40 full-time staff. And as in JPA, we're relatively nimble in our ability to contract with folks, provide grant funding, partner with people, and pilot innovative projects. So I think that makes us unique as a public agency and one I'm proud to work for. What is BayREN? Also founded in 2013, not by coincidence, with our Energy Council, but it's a collaboration of 9 Bay Area counties, also looking to promote resource conservation throughout the Bay Area. There are 2 other RENs, SoCal REN down in SoCal, and the 3C REN down on the Central Coast as well. RENs have the unique directives to fill gaps that utilities are not serving, developing programs for hard-to-reach communities, and pilot innovative and scalable initiatives. So 10 years ago, when the BayREN program started up and when our multifamily program started up at the same time, multifamily programs managed by IOUs admittedly struggled to serve that sector. It is and always has been a tough sector to get at. So that's where IOU programs were falling short, and we wanted to step in and provide a program that might get more traction. So the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancement to date, it's been successful in saving energy. It was officially launched at the start of 2014. We provided then, and we still provide now, no cost energy consulting or technical assistance and significant incentives. It started out at a flat $750 a unit for 3 measures that were calculated to save 10% or more on site energy savings. We have upgraded well over 45,000 units across the Bay Area at over 600 properties, and that represents well over 5% of the multifamily building stock throughout the Bay Area. So from a penetration perspective, we've done quite well as a program. We've provided over $34 million in direct rebates. And, you know, most of the properties we've served, admittedly, have been deed restricted, which is deed restricted affordable housing, which is great. And kind of like class A and B market rate rental. Not exclusively that within the market rate, but I think that's what we've tended towards. And honestly, we've worked with those ownership types more prevalently because they have the administrative staff in place to get contractor bids, and interface with our program. We're changing that, and I'll get to that more later. We are the longest continuously serving multifamily program in the state. We're a model for other retrofit programs, and many, not coincidentally, are popping up or reintroducing now with a model eerily similar to ours, which I want to point out is awesome. The more buildings we're upgrading, the better, and we're coordinating with all of them fully. To date, at least 25% of our projects have served deed-restricted affordable housing properties. Of the 75% left over, I'd say that most of those are higher end market rate, and some smaller percentage of those is unsubsidized affordable housing, which I'll explain more later. I will aim to get some more data on this front and include it in a PDF slide deck that will be shared after my presentation, especially at the suggestion of Sean. We're not tracking it now, but I'm going to aim to track getting care qualified customers we serve tracked. So that was a great suggestion from Sean. So, in terms of who we serve, I just want to start out by acknowledging that we have definitely succeeded as a program in saving energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but we've fallen short in serving those who would most benefit from our program. And when I think of those folks, I think of low-income renters. And it's time to acknowledge that, listen to that community, research solutions, implement them into our program, and adapt and include as we go. I'll come back to this at the end of my presentation. So what did we do? We went out and we put out into the universe that we were trying to host unsubsidized affordable housing listening sessions, listening sessions where we could engage folks that live in and own these properties separately. Owners one group, renters or residents in another group. So what is unsubsidized affordable housing? It's market rate housing. It's not Section 8. It's not deed restricted. It's market rate housing with rents below the area median. These are often smaller, independently owned with deferred maintenance and old original energy systems and appliances. I do want to note that this sector is sometimes called NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing. So you may be familiar with it, but I personally am not using that term anymore. I don't think there's anything natural about how unsubsidized affordable housing has come to exist. And there's a lot of racist policies that have gone into that. And we admit that as a program, we've fallen short in serving these properties and the folks that live in them. So in 2022, at the start of last year, after putting out some feelers with some local governments, we got interest from the County of San Mateo and the County of Alameda, who was then able to connect us with partners that they have, CBOs that are close knit with the communities and would be able to connect us with or bring in folks into these listening sessions, folks who live in or own unsubsidized affordable housing. I want to acknowledge that our program serves 5+ unit properties and that a lot of unsubsidized affordable housing, or UA, is 2 to 4 unit, which we do not serve, but our single family program can. The folks that we ended up formally engaging and partnered with in this endeavor was El Concilio and Nuestra Casa, 2 CBOs based in San Mateo County, and then the community organizers Les Morones and Leo Esclamado in Alameda County, where we focused on southern unincorporated Alameda County. So how we set this up, again, we reached out to local governments. They connected us with local CBOs. In the case of San Mateo County, they have CBOs on retainer, such that they already have a contract teed up with them and they have funds set aside such that when they engage CBOs, they can pay them. I think that's great. We had to go through a contracting process for this particular project, which is administratively burdensome, but it was extremely important to us to make sure that these folks were compensated for their time. And we're not just paying them for marketing and outreach, which is what a lot of energy programs have done in the past with CBOs. We engaged them when we started thinking about the listening sessions, the design of the listening sessions, and we turned the running over of the listening sessions completely to them, and oftentimes didn't show up because we thought government employees might detract from the discussion. And we heard that, we were told that, and we respected that. One thing that was really helpful to me was a pastor in the Ashland, Cherryland area of Southern Alameda County mentioned, you've done enough due diligence if you start hearing the same names or organizations mentioned as you're trying to engage people to figure out what's going on in the community. And I've really taken that to heart since then. And I do want to highlight too that throughout this and from the start, we did not want to be extractive. We wanted to pay people for their time. We provided $50 gift cards for the participants at the listening sessions, but we also just didn't want to dip in and dip out and say, thank you for the information. Now we'll just go run our program. We want to continually show up to show face at these organizations that we've engaged with, through the community events that they have in the online monthly or bi-monthly meetings where time permits, so that they know that we're still interested in what's going on and we can partner with them on other opportunities in the future. So teeing up contracts, prepping for listening sessions, co-create, don't dictate, don't tell people what to do, you know, maybe give an idea of what you're trying to do and then co-create on whatever the solution is to that. Supporting with active contract administration and event preparation and food. Food is really important to get people engaged, is extremely important. Some of these organizations or people might not be as familiar with kind of standard corporate or local government contracting. Help them understand it. Training them up on that could open up other opportunities for them to partner with other projects in the future. And then figure out when you're working with folks what their main communication styles. I was admittedly frustrated at times when my emails weren't getting responded to. Maybe email isn't an effective means of communication for a lot of folks, and just a text or a call can get you a lot more needed information and can build more of a connection with the folks that you're working with. If you can, especially during the pandemic, provide flexibility around in-person virtual meetings. I do think it's important to meet people where they're at, but you want to give people the flexibility to show up virtually if they, you know, can't leave their home, their kids are there, or they're maybe taking a break from work or something. I do want to note that we had an extremely difficult time trying to engage owners, but we did get one group together of a few folks, and we're going to keep trying. So what we learned from the renters, and I'll try and get through this part so we can get to the incentive redesign. And there's a lot more than what I presented here, but folks in unsubsidized and affordable housing tend to be multi-generation, or are often multi-generational. They've been living in their units for a very long time. They're close-knit with their neighbors, and sometimes there's often overcrowding in those units. The buildings tend to be older with deferred maintenance and older appliances and systems. And people want better living conditions. And this is a really good point related to what our program offers. People want better living conditions, renovations, new appliances, but they fear increased rent or eviction associated with those repairs or renovations. How can we as a program assuage that fear? How can you, as people doing this great work, assuage that fear and bring people in and help lower those barriers to entry? A lot of these folks are experiencing increased rent and less parking. And one reason they're attracted to these buildings, or a few of the reasons, are lower rents, less application requirements. A lot of the folks are undocumented, and the less application requirements there are around documents, the more comfortable they feel. And then also the landlords at these properties tend to be less heavy-handed. That can be good, except for the fact that a lot of these properties fall into disrepair and the landlords aren't there to fix it.
And
So,
Ben, you asked
yeah.
for the 10-minute warning, and you have your 10-minute warning, my friend. Just so you know.
Great. I'm going to skip over owners and go straight to the incentive redesign. I want to leave at least 5 minutes for questions, and I have my contact info at the end if any of you want to email me. 2023 incentive redesign. So this is how we try to incentivize or redesign our incentive program to be more equitable. And while our incentive redesign is informed by listening sessions and research, I want to acknowledge it's not perfect. We are keenly aware of the potential for displacement associated with upgrades and the concern around that. And we have anecdotally heard of energy upgrade projects that have led to increased rents and displacement, but we haven't seen any formal studies. It's worth noting that the city of Austin studied upgrades and rents and found that energy upgrade projects did not lead to increased rents. We've considered things like covenants for owners to sign, noting they will not raise rents, but these generally haven't been legally binding, and owners are extremely averse to signing anything like that. We will strive to keep an eye on this and keep the conversation going. So we centered equity for this redesign, and we wanted to identify specific building grades, upgrades that addressed burdens experienced inequitably throughout the region. We wanted to provide higher incentives for properties located in those overburdened regions, and we wanted to provide higher incentives for in-unit measures that improve comfort and safety for properties located in regions that have been underserved by energy efficiency programs. We wanted to make renters' lives better through energy upgrades, and so that's kind of the lens that we took when we looked at this. So this the incentive structure, which I'll get into in detail over the following slides. The old one I already went through. The new one has a base rebate of $500 per unit for 10% energy savings in at least 2 measures, and then we've got adders for electrification, health burden, heat burden, and housing burden. So these are the adders. Any property throughout the Bay Area can qualify for the electrification adder. The health burden adder relates to asthma rates and air pollution is the data used, and it provides incentives for upgrades that address indoor air quality. The resilience to high heat adder is informed by high heat days and percent impervious surface. So folks that fall into what qualifies there will get in-unit upgrades that help residents to be more resilient to extreme heat events. So heat pump upgrades, heat pump HVAC upgrades, and insulation and window upgrades. And the last one is actually the housing burden adder. I incorrectly copied the cell above, but that's for folks who are housing burden as defined using Cal Enviro screen data and American Community Survey data. So we have an eligibility lookup tool. If you're an owner or renter, you can type in your address and see what you qualify for here. I entered my old address in Oakland, and you can see it's close to the 580. It does not qualify for the resilience adder, but it does qualify for the housing burden adder and the health adder. And that tool and that map tool will be public and available soon on our BayRand multifamily website. The electrification adder here, I won't go through it in detail, but we provide more incentive for in-unit electrification measures, and they're significant. The health burden adder, you get $500 per unit for installing these measures if you fall in a health burden adder area. Again, remember that's areas with air pollution and asthma issues. The heat resilience adder, again, this is in areas of the Bay that are going to either now or in the future experience extremely high heat. They'll get incentives of $500 a unit for windows in unit heat pump HVAC, and also things to upgrade the building envelope. And the housing burden adder, that's going to take whatever you qualify before and multiply it by 1.5x or just double it. So you're looking at a range of incentives per unit from $500 to over $5,000. And I just want to mention that we've seen early success and kind of starting to reach out to some selected owners and with these incentives. There's a project in the Tenderloin in San Francisco where the property is undergoing a pretty major rehab, and the new incentive structure is enough for the owner to add electric cooking to the scope. If you're interested in the underlying data and methodologies behind these adders, please reach out to me via email, and I can provide an explanatory document and answer any questions. So what are we striving for? I think we've made a big stride with this incentive redesign, but eventually I'd personally like to get to a place where we're funding non-energy maintenance and repairs to increase pride and sense of place for both renters and owners, and potentially also funding landscape or permaculture to connect residents with the land. We actually have a small pilot project with a co-op in Berkeley right now, where we're working with the residents to design a landscaping project that will connect them with the land, with the hope that it will engender in them some increased desire to conserve resources. I also want to acknowledge that we're striving to get better and more granular tracking of who we're serving. We're falling short there. And then I just want to keep moving on up. What I've included here, the spectrum of community engagement from an organization called Movement Strategy, and we're implementing this across projects here at Stop Waste. But it's really a way to look at how are you and your project you're working on, your organization, engaging with the community and involving them in the ownership of projects. And if you can see this, I know the text is small. I'll put a link in my presentation. I'd say our BAMBE program is probably straddling 2 and 3, which is, consult and involve. We want to move up this spectrum to collaborate and defer to. And an example of that would be participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting, for those who aren't familiar, is a citizen engagement project process through which community members decide how to allocate a portion of a public budget. Citizens make direct decisions about how government money is spent in their community by identifying and prioritizing public spending projects. I'd like to get there with the BAMBE program. We can't because of CPUC regulations right now, but let's fight to change that. Thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, please fire away.
Woo! Okay, so this is an incredible reform. And I haven't seen anyone else present something that was so concrete in the way that engaged the community and responsive. And so I just want to praise you. Like, fantastic. What an inspiring effort that you guys are making. Now, one of the questions, technical question that came up, and you see all your little hands. This is the first time we've had one of these Zoom meetings where people have done these explosive appreciation things. So cute. Okay, so Tom Cabot wanted to know how your program might be designed, so you think about this, might be designed to allow renters to rent or lease EV charging circuits to be installed on their unit meter and reaching their charging space, which we both acknowledge that's a wiring challenge. But just like any other things, new windows or new heat pumps, this is a significant change to the building. So can you speak to like how you're in the Bay Area, the heart of electric vehicle transition in our country? How are you guys starting to think about that?
Yeah, Tom, I'm glad you brought this up. And I should mention that our specific program cannot currently incentivize the installation of electric vehicle chargers. However, with electrification, the line between kind of building upgrades and energy efficiency and electrification of building systems and EV charging is just getting blurrier, right? And Sean mentioned during his intro for me that I'm working on a project with the Air District. Tom, I don't necessarily have an answer for you right now, but I encourage you to follow up with me via email, because we are running into issues with installing space dedicated tenant unit space dedicated electric vehicle chargers, and most of that is due to the low utilization rate. So there need to be chargers that you can install that share the load across different spaces. And there's technology solutions related to that. So again, our program doesn't incentivize electric vehicle chargers, but I could see that potentially changing in the future, but we're always coordinating with them, and that's increasing as we see electrification proliferate.
Okay, so it's on its way.
Yeah.
Not here yet, though. And to be clear, is the single family program offering that yet? Or is this
no?
The whole Bay Rent just doesn't offer electric vehicle charging?
Yeah, from a CPUC perspective, Sean, energy upgrade programs like ours that can do EE and electrification can't provide transportation related incentives.
Okay. And since there is that blurry line now where vehicles are starting to become both a very large house load and an opportunity to charge the house, this is changing. Okay.
Yeah. I think we're not doing anything actively in the vehicle to building space yet, but I hope that we are soon. And I think our program would be well positioned to do that.
Excellent. Well, okay. Thank you, Ben. Yay. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. So good to be here.